Hey guys, so first off, I just wanted to say thank you for looking into my blog, checking it out. It means a lot to me. Secondly, I would like to say that I hate doing videos. It's not something that I'm comfortable with, but I feel like it is almost a need in some situations, just because writing can do a lot, but when it is something so complicated to talk about, very long and just very complex, I feel like it is important to just speak a voice. So that is what I'm going to be doing today when I talk about recovery, and not just recovery in general, more personally my own recovery from an eating disorder. Alright, so here goes nothing. I've had a lot of people come up to me and ask me, how did you go from this super just depressed and lonely, insecure girl to this completely positive and energizing and inspiring person? And I wish that I had just a one-word answer or even a one-sentence answer, but the reality is that I don't. And it's so complex and so hard to describe and explain that usually I'm left giving them no answer, which really sucks. And I want to just be able to tell them how to fix it and how to get out of the dumps, but it is so hard. So I'm just going to tell you my story and hopefully give you some insight or even just inform you of what it was like for me and what it could possibly be like for you if you are wanting to recover from an eating disorder, going through an eating disorder, or just want to learn more about it. I mean, I think that's super cool if you do want to learn more about it, because not a lot of people do. So I guess I'll start with kind of how I first got into it. First step of recovery for me is when I was in the Minneapolis Children's Hospital. And I had gone and seen a lot of psychotherapists before, but I never really was affected by them as much as I was from this one. We'll just give my psychotherapist a name, Jake. That'll work fine. So, meeting with Jake, I would meet with him 3 times a week, so I was missing school a lot driving up there, and it was either go see him or be stuck in inpatient. So of course I was going to go see him rather than being stuck in hospital all the time, because that is never fun. But what he did is he was extremely real with me, where I feel like a lot of my other therapists that I had seen were just very forceful. That, or they would wait for me to talk, and I hated talking. So then we would go nowhere. But Jake, he knew that I didn't like talking, so he did a lot of the talking, which was good because he gave me a lot of insight onto what I was dealing with. And, I'd always read these things about this girl named Anna, and how Anna destroyed lives, and Anna made you feel, sorry, there's a bug, okay, and how Anna made you feel just very insecure. She made you feel like you weren't good enough, and, I never believed in Anna. It just didn't feel like I knew her, and of course she was fictional. She's not a real person. It's more of like a metaphor. But then Jake explained to me that my eating disorder was not me, because I like to be in control, and that was my biggest thing. I needed to be in control, and he told me that I wasn't, that it was this other figure that I couldn't see, that, this is me, and it was just grabbing hold of me, and it was controlling my actions, my thoughts, everything that I did, and, this was my eating disorder. I think that really opened my eyes too, as to seeing, oh my gosh, I'm not in control, and I love being in control. So that was scary for me. And then he also went through and explained, what my eating disorder was in my own case. He said that every eating disorder is different. Every eating disorder is very unique. But he opened up this book that was just about eating disorders. And then he took out a notebook and he set it right next to him. And we would go back and forth between things that I would do and then things that this book explained. And it would explain everything of like my actions, my thoughts, my history, how I got to that point. And understanding what I had going on with me was so important because finally I knew what it was. When you don't know what it is, you're oblivious to it. You don't even know what's going on, and that's what it was. I was just oblivious, really. Say that was really the start of my recovery, even though during the time I was actually thinking, okay, how in hell can I get out of this? That was really all that was on my mind, was getting out of there and getting back to my comfort. And my comfort was my eating disorder. It was really like just this blanket of stability and comfort that I wrapped myself in, and even though it was destroying me, it's what I was used to, and it's what I really like the most. So even though it was destroying me, recovering from it, trying to get away from it, is really what was my hell. Going through recovery was not a place of, joy. And it wasn't easy by any means. It was honestly probably the hardest thing that I've ever had to do in my life. It was like just taking off my clothes and exposing myself to the world completely naked. I felt exposed all the time, and during it I felt down more than I did when I had it, because recovery was like a constant lose-lose for me. It was waking up and having breakfast, and I would feel good for a little bit, but then all of a sudden I would hate myself because I ate. And for so long I was living where eating was the ultimate negativity. That's what you want to stay away from. That was bad. Calories were terrible. And then when I wouldn't eat and I would fall back into my eating disorder, it was also just a huge disappointment, because I was like, okay, what am I doing now? I want to get out of this. And I just felt stuck. Felt so stuck. Like there was no way for me to win in that battle. So, I would go back and forth between eating, not eating, feeling okay, feeling just complete crap. And eventually I found myself just giving in. My psychotherapist, Jake, saw that I wasn't filling out my logs anymore about what I was eating and how I felt when I ate, what time I was eating. And he told me that I could either go back and inpatient because I was losing weight again, or I could take a break, change my mindset, and then come back. Of course, in my mind, I was like, okay, take the break, get out of there, go back to who you want to be. So that's what I did. And I never went back. And then I just went back to my old ways. Like I never even tried to change. Like everything that he said wasn't even true. And then I found myself in the worst situation I could possibly be in. And that was just complete health deterioration. I got so depressed and so deprived of nutrition again. And of course, I ended back into the hospital. One, because I tried to commit suicide. Two, because I wasn't eating anything. So, just a double downward dog there, honestly. The second institute that I was in for the longest out of all of them. And I have to say, it was one of the worst, mainly because I still wasn't really accepting the fact that I needed to change. And so I had to sit in a separate room from all of the other patients and eat with a counselor. My bathroom was locked because they were afraid that I was going to purge all my food. And it was just like the lowest of the lows, having completely just no security. I couldn't even go to the bathroom without having someone come in and unlock the door for me and sit there and watch me. I got checked in on every 15 minutes in fear that I was going to do something. I got yelled at numerous times for not eating. It was just terrible. I couldn't even choose when I got to watch TV, when I could go outside, when I woke up. I mean, talk about humiliation. Yeah, that was the worst. And I stayed there for over 2 weeks. I missed a lot of my summer. I missed a lot of my friends. What I want to tell most people is just that it's not simple, and it's not something that you just wake up one day and decide that you're going to change. That did not happen for me. Oh, even when I got out, it was a constant battle of just wanting to get better and then giving in. And I knew I wanted to get better because being in those institutes and missing my life was just too much for me. So I wanted it back, but it was so hard, and I'm sorry I'm getting emotional right now. But recovery was just the worst thing I've ever done. And it's still even hard to think about the things that I went through and how down I was about myself. And even though you would think that the eating disorder would be my biggest downfall, it wasn't. It was the up and down roller coaster. And when you hear the metaphor of a roller coaster, that is exactly what recovery is. There were times where I was going up and thought everything was good, and then all of a sudden I'm at the peak, and then I go straight down, and it's just complete hell again. All of a sudden I'm around the corner, and I'm upside down, and I'm twisting and turning, and then I'm in the middle of nowhere, and I'm lost. And I remember moving in the middle of my recovery. Moved to Lakeville with my father, and I met new people, which was really good. And they actually helped me, more of encouraged me to get past what I was doing. There was a lot of fear. I was scared of disappointing those that I loved. That was a big thing. I was terrified of eating at other people's houses because I was scared that I was going to cry during the meal. It happened a lot. I was scared that I was going to have a panic attack from eating, So I spent a lot of time alone, and at the same time I was starting a new relationship. And eating at their parents' house was the hardest thing I ever had to do. A lot of times I didn't do it, but then there were times where I got enough courage to sit down and eat some food in front of them. And even though I felt so uncomfortable and so naked, and I felt like everybody was looking at me, I did it. And I felt fine afterwards, which is a new feeling for me, because after I ate, it was definitely a sick feeling that I got because my body wasn't used to it. But at that point, I had started getting my body used to consuming food, taking things in. And so once I decided that I was going to eat in front of other people, I didn't feel too sick afterwards. And that was actually such a cool feeling to have, you know. I know that to most people, you know, you eat every day, you're not used to getting this exhilarating feeling of joy from eating and not feeling sick from it, but that's exactly what I had. So I have to say that recovery probably took me a year and a half to get over. And most of the time it was me being completely okay, eating fine, to all of a sudden just going straight down into a pit with no warning and feeling like my old self again. Which was really hard because it was like, I felt like I could never get out of it. I felt like I was stuck there. I was like, no matter how hard I try and how hard I'm trying to get better, there's always a point where I just end back in the same place. Really sucks. But the thing is it gets better. It gets so much better. But it takes time. Even 2 years after the start of my recovery, I was still having times where I would just get to the mindset of my old self. But I was still eating. I was still doing okay. It was just that little bit of questioning, which was hard. And, you know, sometimes it still happens, you know, not in a super negative way where I'm scared that I'm ever going to get back to that point in my life. But, you know, there are times when I still look back at it, and it's hard every once in a while to even think about it, you know, to think about what I went through and what it took out of me. It's really difficult, and it was really a dark time. But the good news is that, like everybody says, and I know everybody hears this all the time, that it does get better. And through all of that, I have become this person that I love inside and out, no matter my flaws, no matter what the tiniest things that I want to fix sometimes. You know, I am proud of who I've become, and I'm so happy with where I am in life and people that I surround myself with. And I just want to say thank you to anyone and everyone who's ever been there for me, who's ever encouraged me to do more, who's ever helped me get through my struggles. You have a special place in my heart, and you always will. And, you know, while this wasn't the most informative video, and it wasn't too much about the facts, it was more just about a little part of my story, and honestly more of a generalization, because a lot of stuff is really hard to remember. It's true that that time in my life was kind of a blur. Just the recovery of it was just so up and down that a lot of the specifics are hard to remember. Besides the whole sitting in the kitchen for hours trying to get up the courage to eat something and then bawling my eyes out and going back upstairs and feeling worse than I did when I went down there. But stop focusing on the negatives. Let's go back to the positives. And that is that life is great, and no matter what you are dealing with, it's going to be okay. And it will not last forever. I mean, take it from the person who went through this for 6 years of their life. And now I am at the greatest point that I could possibly be at. And it's amazing. And I have so much encouragement and so much support from other people, and not only other people, but from myself, which is great. It's really, really great and a really amazing feeling. And, you know, the fact that I went through all of that and have turned out like this is incredible. It really is. And I've learned so much from what I went through. So much. And that's why I want to do more. That's why I want to make a difference, is because I know that it's hard. I experienced it firsthand, and I just want to be there for other people and help them get through it. So if you guys are ever dealing with anything or just want to talk, feel free to message me or just even ask questions if you're curious. I would love to answer them. I would love to write a post about anything that you want me to, honestly. I love doing it. So feel free to reach out. I have all of my contact information on my blog on the contact spot. So thank you guys for watching so much. I'm sorry if this ended up being longer than you were hoping for, but I really hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.